A Dallas Stars month in review. Who are your 3 stars for the month of October? The most surprising player, the most disappointing, and plenty more on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. 2 days away from the NHL Global Series in Finland, where the Dallas Stars are taking on the Florida Panthers. And as I announced yesterday, be on the lookout for a crossover edition of Locked On Stars with Locked On Panthers that will air on Friday before the game. Cannot wait. But today we are going to do a Dallas Stars month in review, the month of October. Who are your 3 stars for the month? Who was the most surprising player, the most disappointing? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll do some November predictions at the end of today's episode, which is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So we begin today going over our 3 stars for the month of October. And let me know in the comments below. Drop a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. So a lot of good performances in the first month of the season. Let's just talk about where the Stars stand after the month of October. Through 9 games, they have a 7-2-0 record. That's 14 points. They're second in the Central Division, trailing Winnipeg, who actually just suffered their first loss the other night. Winnipeg has 16 points in the first 9 games of the season. The Stars are a perfect 5-0 on home ice. They're 2-2 on the road. They have a goal differential of plus 12, 29 goals for, 17 goals against, which is the least in the Central Division. And if you look at the West as a whole as well, the Central is loaded. Winnipeg at the top, Vegas. Then you have the Stars. Minnesota's right down there with 12 points along with the Kings. So the top 3 teams in the Central are off to a very, very good start. And just about a week ago, if you looked at the league, the top 3 teams were in the Central as well. But the Wild have suffered a few losses, and I like Minnesota coming in to this season. But for the most part, I think the Dallas Stars are right where we expected them to be off the start here in 2024-25. And the 2 losses they've had, you feel like they should have won both of them, right? Against Buffalo, and then the Washington loss the other week as well, since the power play got off to an atrocious start. But now the Stars have a few power play goals in multiple games now. They're starting to find their rhythm. So that brings us to our 3 stars of the month of October. And there were a lot of great performances. So let me know yours in the comments below. My 3rd star for the month of October is going to go to Matt Duchene. And we discussed him already over the last few episodes here on Locked On Stars, but he deserves it, right? 11 points in the month of October, 6 goals and 5 assists. He leads the team. He's riding a 4-game point streak right now. 3 of those games, he has multi-point efforts. He's off to a scorching start, playing over 16 minutes a night, which is down about 30 seconds, and he's playing quality minutes. That line with Sagan and Marchman has been extremely good, and the most consistent line right off the hop for head coach Pete DeBoer, and that's not a big surprise. So Matt Duchene gets my 3rd star of the month of October. His expected goals per 60 minutes is 0.87. His goals per 60 minutes is 1.61, which is highest on the Dallas Stars. They have him located in the quadrant on moneypuck.com as a sniper. He is the highest quality sniper currently, and he has a wonderful shooting percentage. As I mentioned, I'm on Monday, I believe, at 40%, which leads the league. that won't continue. Otherwise, we're going to have a historic pace of goal scoring for Matt Duchene. The second star for the month of October, Matt Duchene gets the third star, just like he was the NHL third star of the week. My second star, you don't have to go too far. It has to be Mason Marchman. He has been superb so far this season. He does a little bit of everything. And yeah, he's delinquent sometimes, but that's what you're going to get in Mason Marchman. He has 5 primary assists. He's off to a good start on the score sheet as well with 8 total points. He has a couple of goals in there. He's playing quality minutes. He's physical. He's really set the tone for the Stars as well physically in a lot of the games so far this season. His expected goals, by the way, is 1.97. And yeah, that's just a tick under Wyatt Johnston, who leads the way. So Marchman is creating offense for himself and for others. He's just been so phenomenal. The way he plays the game is exactly what the Stars kind of needed to add, and they did that with Lyubushkin and Dumba over the offseason. Marchman, man, love his game, and he's off to a fantastic start this season. So Mason Marchman, I feel like, has to get the second star for the month of October. And there are a lot of good performances. I feel bad for leaving some players off, and we'll have an honorable mentions little part of this segment as well in just a bit. But Mason Marchman deserves a lot of love for what he's doing on the penalty kill, on the power play as well. Like, don't sleep on what he's done with the man advantage. He already has a couple of points there. So he's just been a big factor in a lot of different areas for the Stars this season. Now we move to our first star of the month of October, and this just feels perfect. It has to be Jake Ottinger for October. He has been superb. He has been dandy. We talked about his numbers just a few days ago. In his first 6 starts of the season, has a 5-1 record. He's only allowed 11 goals against in the first 6 starts. 938 save percentage, 1.84 goals against average, which is top 5 in the NHL currently. It feels like this could be almost a co-award along with his partner Casey DeSmith, who's been pretty darn good to begin this season. Otter has a shutout as well this season. He has a career 14-2-1 record in the month of October. You look at the goals saved above expected at the end of the month. The Dallas Stars lead the National Hockey League. This is from Top Down Hockey at plus 12.8. And yes, DeSmith has a lot to do with that, but so does Jake Ottinger. So Jake Ottinger gets my number 1 star of the month. And yeah, it's October for a reason, and it's great to see he gets the contract done too. So that's a little extra incentive for him to be the October star of the month for the Dallas Stars, a number 1 star. So those are my 3 stars for the month of October. Jake Ottinger, number 1, Mason Marchman, number 2, and then I got Matt Duchene at number 3. Let me know in the comments below who your 3 stars of the month of October are for. Some honorable mentions. I mean, Stankoven has to be in there. He's been a lot of fun to watch. 9 points in 9 games. I think you could throw Tyler Seguin in there as well with 4 goals in the first 6 games in his season. Some noteworthy performances that don't get a lot of love. I think Colin Blackwell could be up there as well. The fourth line in general has been really, really good, especially when it comes to their penalty killing and what they do in that department and area of the game. It's really been a nice full team effort for the Dallas Stars in a lot of ways. The power play is starting to find itself right now. You look at the penalty kill, which ranks number 1 in the entire league. If you take a look at the power play percentage now, I want to see where the Stars are after a couple of good games. They're smack dab in the middle at 15th at 20%. The PK is rolling along at 93.1%. They're actually tied for first along with the Nashville Predators, but the PK has won them a lot of games. Special teams has been up and down when it comes to the power play, but seems like they're starting to figure it out. And I will say about the power play too, in this month, after starting 2 for 21, the last game out against Chicago, there was just a confidence about it. There was more decisiveness with their plays, their passing. You're starting to see them finally get their rhythm. And we all knew it was going to happen, but at the same time, it did not look good. It did not look pretty in those first 20 or odd opportunities. And we complained about it. We moaned about it. And look, they're starting to find it again. And they'll probably finish top 10 in the league once again, like they did the past 2 seasons under head coach Pete DeBoer. Some area where they do need to improve a bit more is in the dots. They haven't been a great faceoff team this season, 47%, and that's a bit odd. They did lose Joe Pavelski, of course, Craig Smith, Delandria. They were all pretty good in the faceoff dot, but they're 23rd right now in the NHL, and that's an area where they're usually top 5, like consistently. Even when they haven't been necessarily a contender, they have always been an excellent face-off team. So they did lose some big components of that in the offseason, but Rope Hintz is at 48%. That's a bit odd. Sagan's at 48%. Even Duchesne is at 50%, right? There's some guys that just haven't quite been what they usually are in the dots. Jamie Benn leads the way at 60%. That's not a huge surprise. He was great the other night in Chicago, especially on the man advantage at winning some of those faceoffs. So hopefully as the season wears along, we'll start to see that percentage bump up a little bit as well. But okay, that's a quick month of October review. Now let's talk about the most surprising Dallas Star. Who's been the most disappointing for you as well in the first 9 games this season? Let me know in the comments below. I'll share mine in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. And this week on PrizePicks, you can look at the hockey board and select Nathan MacKinnon for more than half a goal. He has been off to a tear, despite the Avalanche having a bit of a slow start. Evander Kane, more than 1.5 hits. David Pasternak, of course, more than 2.5 shots on goal. Crosby for more than half a point. You have so many different options with PrizePicks, and you can use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. That is right. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. The most surprising Dallas Star this season so far and the most disappointing. Let me know your answer in the comments below. I think we'll differ a lot more on these than possibly the stars of the month, but who knows? We may be completely different on the 3 stars of the month as well. There's a lot of different options when it comes to the most surprising Dallas Star for me this season. And sometimes this can do with your expectations of players that will largely sort of impact your answer to this. I have to go with Ilya Lyubushkin. I have really liked his game. I really have. And he's sort of been as advertised for us so far this season. He's playing alongside Thomas Harley, and they seem to have a nice rapport. He can play with anybody as well, which I think is a great sign for the Stars and Alan Nazardine, the pairs he can put together. And Lyubushkin has sort of just fit in really nicely. He's physical. He's not a huge guy, but he plays a brand of hockey that the Stars kind of needed on the back end. And he's been great on the penalty kill. All the new faces they've thrown in there. And him and Lindell have sort of been that shutdown pairing for the Stars. It's been the Lindell Hakanpää pairing, but even better because Lyubushkin can move a bit better and he's more mobile. You look at what he's done time on ice wise on the penalty kill. He's played 26 minutes, which is second among defensemen on the Dallas Stars. Essa leads the way, which is not surprising. He's played more penalty kill minutes than anybody in the league over the past few seasons, but Lyubushkin is right there at 26 and a half minutes total. His 5-on-5 numbers have been just fine. And I think he has been a really, really nice addition so far this season. He's the most surprising player for me. Did not have the highest expectations for him. Matt Dumba, another acquisition from the Stars in the summer, has sort of been what I kind of expected him to be, but I didn't expect Lyubushkin to have as great as an impact as I've seen in the first 9 games. I think he's really made a considerate contribution in the first 9 games this season, and it leaves me less concerned and less worried about where the Stars are going to be defensively in the month of April. So that's my most surprising Dallas Star. It's Ilya Lyubushkin. An honorable mention for this question, I have to throw Colin Blackwell in there. He's been great. Oscar Beck as well. Didn't expect a whole lot of him. You know, we talked to Steven Meserve, and he spoke about Beck as sort of that Radek Faksa type of player, which isn't always the most sexy type of player, but you need those role players on your team, right? You need those type of guys that can win faceoffs and just play solid zero-sum hockey, so to speak. And I think Oscar Beck and Colin Blackwell, 2 parts of that fourth line, deserve to be on the most surprising honorable mention as well. I think Niels Lundqvist deserves to be in that category as well. We talked about him last week, and the just elevation of his game, really, really good to see that Niels is starting to establish himself as an everyday NHL defenseman, and hopefully we don't have to return to what we saw over the past few years with him. So my most surprising Dallas Star goes to Ilya Lyubushkin. Now, the most disappointing. I think there can be a couple answers for this, and I even hate to bring it up, but it has to be Miro for me. And look. I get it. He does a lot more for the Dallas Stars than score. I understand he cares way more about his own net than the other, but I haven't seen that Miro. I feel like the confidence and the floating across the ice. We did see it in Chicago, or not in Chicago, but against the Blackhawks the other night. He was being aggressive. He was dictating the play. I need to see more out of that. But that's just the first time I've seen it in the first 9 games this season. It has to be Heiskanen. 3 points in the first 9 games. I have these high expectations for him to really take a step forward in terms of his offensive production. He's playing on his strong side, and I know Dumba got hurt, so the plans got derailed there for a bit. But I think Miro is my most disappointing, and he's had some bad games. I mentioned the game against, I think it was Buffalo, like one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. He has struggled a bit at some points in this season, and that doesn't outweigh all the greatness he does in his defensive zone and all the greatness he does on the power play and even on the PK sometimes. And he plays a ton of minutes, but I have really high expectations for him. So most disappointing, I think, has to go to Miro Heiskanen. I'll stick on the defense there. I'm curious what some of y'all's answers will be on that. I think you could throw Jamie Benn in that conversation. It's been a bit of a slow start for him. There's not a lot of names that jump out to me. Wyatt Johnston could be one. I think we all expected him to get off to just a flying start, and he only has a goal. In the first handful of games, you could probably throw him into that conversation as well. But in terms of my expectations and performance level, I think Miro is the most disappointing for me. Just 3 points in the first 9 games. So there's my most surprising Dallas star in Ilya Lyubushkin, and my most disappointing with Miro Heiskanen, which I don't even like having to utter those words. But hey, that's what I noticed in the month of October. All righty, let's wrap up today's episode discussing some of our November predictions. How do we feel about the Stars who are kicking off the month of November in the NHL Global Series in just a couple of days against the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers? We'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 lineup. So go ahead and go to FanDuel.com, get in on the action. It gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The month of November is going to be very, very interesting for the Dallas Stars, and frankly, unprecedented with going over to Finland to take on the Panthers here this weekend. And I do have concerns about the Stars when they come back from this trip. How are they going to look? Is there going to be a lull in their game for, a week or two? We saw that with the Wild not too long ago when they went across the pond and they kind of struggled to find their game. Vancouver, I believe, went over last year and they didn't get off to a great start. I'm hoping this happened at a perfect time for the Dallas Stars. Of course, they're well rested going into the weekend, but they take on some really, really good teams this month. It is a tough schedule and arguably probably the toughest month the Stars are going to face. You got the Penguins, you got the Bruins again, Wild, and you have the Hurricanes, Lightning. You got the Avalanche to end the month as well. You do have the Blackhawks, Sharks, and Ducks in there, but we know the Sharks give the Stars a tough time, and even the Blackhawks have. So there are some really, really good teams, and I mean, from my point of view, you're taking on 80% of your games are more than likely going to be playoff teams this season. So these games in Finland are huge too. Like you want to try to pick up 2 to 3 points out of the possible 4. So you at least get some in the bank, because who knows what they're going to look like on Thursday when they get back to play the Blackhawks again. But I do have some November predictions for you on today's episode of Locked On Stars. My number one is Wyatt Johnston is going to lead the team in points in the month of November. I think he's been a bit unlucky this season. He's just been fighting the puck sometimes. It hasn't necessarily settled for him in some of those scoring areas. He's gotten stoned. I mean, the save Mrazek made on him. Holy cow. What incredible stop on Johnston. He's going to start finding the back of the net, and all the advanced numbers kind of point that direction. He's going to have a big month. So that's my first prediction is Wyatt Johnston finds that offensive touch. I'll say double-digit goals in the month of November. So I'm looking for 53 to have a huge month. That is my number one prediction. My number 2 is going to be the Stars power play will be top 5 by the end of the month. Really tough start. They're going to turn it on. They have some teams they can take advantage of in the month of November. Got the Blackhawks a couple of times. The Bruins, who take a lot of penalties as well. You see them. The power play ends up in the top 5 by the end of November. I think that would be a fantastic turnaround. So that's my number 2 prediction. Number 3 And we all know how important it is to be in the playoff conversation by American Thanksgiving. That's sort of the benchmark because I think it's 88% of the teams that are in a playoff spot will remain there. So really one or two teams are going to find their way in and out. My last prediction for the month of November, the Dallas Stars will be in first place by 6 points by the end of November. And that could be tough because Winnipeg with Hellebuck doesn't look like they're going to lose a whole lot of games. I'm going with the Stars be leading the Central Division by 6 points by the end of November. And they're in a really, really good spot to continue to make a deep postseason run. So those are three of my predictions for the month of November. And yeah, these are not the most out on a limb predictions in the world, with Johnston leading the team and scoring double-digit goals. That's kind of bold. But yes, I like the Stars having a nice possession of first place in the Central Division. So there we go. That's a little month in review for the Dallas Stars after a very successful start to the season, and some predictions for you as we head into the month of November. It's fall now, which is fantastic. Got the leaves changing, the weather's starting to be a bit cooler. It's just a great time of year, and it feels like hockey season, which is the great part about things. It is hockey season, full on, full blast right now. And the NHL Global Series, just a couple of days, Stars, Panthers, and Tampere, Finland, going to be an absolute blast. Cannot wait for these games. And as I said at the top of today's show, remember, Locked On Panthers crossover on Friday that will air before the first game, which is a 1 o'clock puck drop for Friday afternoon. That'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Please drop a like, drop a comment, your answers below. 3 stars of the month and your most surprising and most disappointing player. I want to know. Throw some predictions in there as well for the month of November. Have a great rest of your day, Stars fans, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.